Is your business pootling along instead of firing on all cylinders? Are you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and frustrated? Do your dreams of financial freedom feel a long way off? Then this is the podcast for you. Little Voice, Big Business with your host, Nadia.
Hello and welcome to Little Voice Big Business. Today's episode is all about you. I've been gathering questions from you all and today I'm going to be answering some of them on the podcast. So before we kick off, I just want to say that I love getting your questions. So if you have a business question, you've got the business blues, or something is bothering you and you need some help, business related, not all areas of life I'm afraid, because that won't be very helpful, but if it's business related, let me know. Go to my website, nadiafiner.com, and on the right hand side of the screen you'll see a little tab that says Be on the Podcast, and it's this cool voicemail thingy where you can leave me a message and I can add you to the podcast, which is pretty clever. The wonders of modern technology, eh? Just to say, if you've got a question, please don't be shy. And if you don't want to give your name, you can make one up. But if you do make one up, make it a good one. Make it funny, okay? So I look forward to hearing from you. But for today, we're going to crack on with these questions. Our first question comes from Ashton.
Hi Nadia, my name is Ashton and I live on the east coast of Canada and I've been really enjoying your podcast. I've been listening to them for the last couple of days and you have a lot to share. Your knowledge is quite extensive, so it's great to hear. So keep up the good work. I'm building my client base and there's a few people that I really want to work with. And I'm kind of hesitant and not really sure what is the best approach to have with them. You know, I've thought of creative ways of sending bright envelopes in the mail with sort of information and photographs of my work and then following up with them, or, you know, a video, email, trying to make it a little bit more personal. So I'm just wondering if you had any kind of creative suggestions on, you know, if there's people out there that you really want to work with, you know, how do you kind of contact them and kind of get them jazzed about what you can offer them. Yeah, I appreciate any comments or feedback you have about this idea. Have a great day. Thanks.
Okay, so Ashton wants to know how to approach the people that she wants to work with, if they're kind of key influencers in her industry. So it sounds to me like, first of all, you've had loads of good ideas. So you've already said you were considering making something creative, a video, sending an email. So you've come up with loads of ideas, and I don't think that you necessarily need more ideas. It sounds to me like you need the courage to get on and do it. Because actually, that's the most tricky thing sometimes. First of all, don't forget that the person that you want to contact is only human, like you. And by putting them on such a pedestal, it changes the dynamic of the relationship. And I'm sure there are lots of good reasons why they would want to work with you. So you didn't tell me about the type of work that you do, but I'm assuming that there would be a way for you to present the opportunity for you to work together as a win-win situation. Most people don't generally work with others out of a sense of generosity and kindness because it's business after all. When I'm approaching somebody, it's not necessarily that I need to come up with the coolest, craziest way of approaching them. Instead, I need to pitch it to them as a win-win. So I need to make it very clear what I can offer and what they're going to get out of our joint venture or our working relationship. So I suggest that when you're approaching them, you make it very clear who you are, what you can offer, and how you can help. I would even potentially create a kind of a tongue-in-cheek section of a presentation or of a document that's what's in it for you. Make it very clear that by working with you, you're going to help them grow their business in some way. Perhaps the work that you do is more appealing to an audience that they're not currently reaching out to. Perhaps you've got a large list and the reason that you're looking to work with them is to get some kind of credibility, but then they could access your list. It's really a case of showing them what you can do to help them. And I think if you're a person of influence, I'm not exactly a person of influence, but I do know that I get people contacting me a lot, wanting me to help them or do stuff for them. And, on the whole, I'm pretty helpful, but it does get to a point where I think, oh God, I can't just help everybody all of the time, or, I'm not going to promote other people's products to my people for no reason. There needs to be something in it for me or my people. So if you can make that really clear, so it's just a slight switch of approach, then I think it's going to be a lot easier. In terms of the how you reach out to somebody, the two things I find to be the most effective are, number one, face-to-face. If I can sort of stalk somebody, not really. If I can kind of meet them at an event, or, if I see them somewhere and there's somebody on my list who I've thought I really must connect with them, I don't wimp out. I really force myself to go and talk to them, even if I am required to drink a few glasses of champagne before I get the courage to do so. So definitely face-to-face, but also Twitter is amazing for this. Twitter enables you to track people down, share useful stuff and hook up with people in a much more simple, informal way than you would do otherwise. I think Twitter definitely, and I think adding in a sense of humour or being a bit tongue-in-cheek about it. Recently, I reached out to somebody and I did it in a kind of joking fashion because I knew he must get this all the time. And so I made it funny, and I think he should remember me now. And when we meet up in a few months at this event I'm going to, then, we can discuss it further. The other point is that sometimes these kind of relationships can take a while to nurture. So don't rush, but be yourself, connect with them on a medium where they're open to making connections. So Twitter is good, and face-to-face, and thinking about what you can do for them, because people are a bit selfish, really. Okay, I hope that helps you, and let me know how you get on. Right, our next question. I love doing this, isn't it fun? Our next question, I'm hoping Jessie the cat's not going to come and interrupt. But let's hear from Mock.
Hi Nadia, this is Mock from the Innovation Beehive. Loving your podcasts. I'm just wondering how you keep abreast of all of your leads. So how do you classify them, and how do you make sure that you keep on top of them? Thanks. Hope to hear back from you soon. Bye.
Okay, Mox, your question is about how to keep abreast of your leads, how to keep control of all these bits of information coming at you and a structure to maybe help you. So the first thing I would suggest is having a system. So whether that involves using something called a CRM, Customer Relationship Management tool, which can be a fun piece of software. The two things I like are Insightly, very basic and I think free to start with. Insightly, and also Capsule is good. And I think they both have an app, and they enable you to store. It's basically a spreadsheet mixed with an address book, and it's a bit more snazzy. So you get to store information about your people in one place. A spreadsheet would enable you to have fields where you could put maybe their address, their email, their phone number, and some notes. But as you add to it, it's going to get huge. Not just the number of people, but like the columns are going to be, extensive. You'd have to print it on about 10 pieces of paper and sellotape them all together, and it would get a little out of control. Whereas a database, like a CRM, has layers, so you can kind of go behind the data. And that's where you can start storing useful bits of information about people, like when you last spoke to them, how you spoke to them, what the outcome of that conversation was. And then you can tag people, whether you use the sort of traditional method of a warm lead, a hot lead, or a cold contact, or you create your own and you tag people into segments, so that you can easily track who's kind of perhaps really interested in working with you and who's kind of considering it a little bit and who doesn't know about you yet. That's what I would recommend. I don't think it needs to be that complicated. Just something very simple where you can store the info. There's a couple of things to bear in mind. So first of all, you want your CRM to integrate with the other stuff you're using. I know for a fact that Capsule integrates with MailChimp. So that makes sense, right? That you can segment people and then email them according to what group they're in. You don't want to have loads of different systems that don't talk to each other. That's really annoying. So I would make sure that it integrates with the other bits of software you're using. The other important thing is that the people in your business, and even if that's just you, you need to use it. Because if you don't use your system, because it's too much hassle, you can't be bothered to log in, it's a pain in the butt, it becomes out of date pretty quickly, and then it's more trouble than it's worth. Everyone that you work with needs to be committed to updating it. And some of these systems enable you to actually email and blind copy a particular code into your emails, and then it files them. So you can start to keep a really good record of all the correspondence between you. And actually, it is a really good idea to be able to do this, because should a problem arise, someone complains, and God forbid you get into some kind of legal battle, you've got all the information you need stored under each client. It is a good idea. And in terms of leads, I think a CRM is a great way to boost your sales process. So let's just imagine that you are not tracking your leads. You'd go from one week to the next and think, oh, who are we going to talk to today? You wouldn't even know. And you wouldn't have a kind of strategic approach. You'd just be making it up as you go along. People would slip through the net, potentially, and someone who'd expressed an interest might get forgotten about. You also might do the cardinal sin of following up with the same person twice, which I've witnessed happening a few times, and that just makes you look like a bunch of wallies. Don't do that. Having a system in place will mean that you follow up with people, say, after a week, and again after a month. You've got all the facts about them, so you know when their birthday is, how many kids they've got, if there's some particular issue that they're facing. And I think it shows that you care if you mention this kind of stuff in correspondence. Even if you have a tiny, tiny business, even if you're just starting out and you don't have any clients, something like this will help you to get clients. Even if it starts with a spreadsheet with 10 people on it, I think it's a really good way to help you grow your business. That's what I would recommend. Right, let's come on to our third question from Hawa.
Hey Nadia. Yes, I'm excited to ask you a question related to the boring parts of business, of course, getting your, and important, boring but important, spreadsheets and getting your costing right. So when you're at the beginning and your costs aren't that high, and when do you start considering these kind of costs? When do you start should be planning your costs? Do you have to take into consideration everything when you're at the early stage, when you're using just yourself and you're not paying yourself at the start? What should you take into consideration, and when do I need to start thinking about those kind of costs and overhead costs, etc.? That would be great if you can answer that for me. Thank you.
All right, Hawa. So you cracked me up, first of all. Let's talk about costs. So even early on in your business, I want you to be recording the costs that you incur directly associated with the business. Now, I'm not an accountant, God forbid. Well, funny story, my first ever job was training to be an accountant, and it did not go well. So I have gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. Oh my God, those were the days. It was awful. But anyway, so costs. I'm not an accountant, but I would recommend you track all your costs. Now, this is not necessarily just the stuff you would immediately think of. It's not just cost of goods, i.e. the materials that you need to create your product, or say office space. It's other stuff like travel to events, it's networking events, it's stationery and books and software and courses. Okay, it can be all kinds of stuff. So there's direct costs, which are associated with the creation of a product, and then indirect costs, which are the costs that you incur running your business. If you have a product, that's more clear-cut. If it's a service, you'll just have costs probably in general. But I think a mistake that people make is that they don't track these early on enough. And when you're first starting, you just pay for things out of your own money. And it's a missed opportunity, actually, because when you start making money, you get to offset the money that you've made against these costs. So it's a very good idea to keep the receipts and start tracking this stuff from the moment you start exploring your idea. Okay, and I also recommend going to get an accountant because they'll keep you on the straight and narrow. So you want to start tracking your costs straight away, and you really only need a spreadsheet to do this. For those of you who have an allergy to spreadsheets, you have to just get over it. But it's like a list. Make a list, the date, what you bought, how much it cost, and perhaps something like a category that it falls under. So is it travel? Is it software? Is it marketing or advertising? Is it materials? And then you can start tracking how much you spend on each of those things. So definitely get started straight away. From the moment you've got the idea, from the moment you think I'm going to do this. And ideally, I would open a bank account. Doesn't even have to be a business bank account to start with, but at least something. Use a separate account so that you can track costs relating to the business and not get confused when you go and buy some shoes or a new jacket, because that is not a business cost. All right, so hopefully that's been helpful. And if you were trying to avoid tracking your costs, sorry about that, because I do think you need to do it.
Money makes the world go around, the world go around, the world go around. Money makes the world go around, it makes the world go round.
Okay, let's go on to our last question from Nadine.
Hi Nadia, this is Nadine, and I have a question for you. I would love to know how you find more high-end clients. Do you have any strategies that you could share with us?
Right, Nadine. So you want to find out how to get more high-end clients. I think it's a bit difficult for me to know exactly what you mean. So it really depends what you're talking about here, because it could refer to absolutely anything. So I think let's assume you're providing a service and you're looking for some more meaty clients rather than perhaps people who are going to work with you for a session at a time. You want to perhaps sell them something which is a bit more substantial and is going to cost more. So I don't tend to differentiate between high-end clients and normal clients. They're just your people. And I think what you sell them is going to depend on what they need. So rather than looking at people in terms of value and how much money you're going to get from them, it would be preferable to look at who you want to work with and how you can help them. So if you are, say, a consultant, let's think of an example. Let's imagine you're a landscape gardener. and you want some bigger projects. You don't want to just do weeding for people and planting bulbs. You want to find something where you get to do the whole garden and some design. Then you need to identify which kind of people are going to need this service, because they're probably different to the kind of people who need general gardening work. They may be moving to a new house. Perhaps they're the kind of people who've just done some building work and are therefore in the market for a landscape job. So try and identify who they might be. Trying to persuade people who just want weeding done to revamp their entire garden is probably going to be tricky. And once you've identified who the people are that are going to need your service, then I suggest you look at why they would choose you and how you can help them. If somebody wants landscaping, why would they come to you? Would they come to you because you have got a fashion background and are therefore amazing at creating these beautiful shapes that appeal to people who like visual, maybe they're really interested in texture and fashion and design. So your garden designs are famous for that approach. So if you differentiate yourself like that and you find people who are also interested, it's an easier sell. Then I would work out what they need specifically. So what are they currently not getting from others? So does that relate to the niche that we mentioned just before? Or is there a particular way of working that you have which solves a problem for them? So perhaps they're looking for a designer who's going to be able to create their new garden in less than a week. Perhaps these are people who don't like disruption, and you're somebody who's able to do that because you work in a specific way. So what you've done is look at who your people are and what they're interested in and what they need, and then you create some kind of package or service or method which answers that need. And then people are more likely to pay for something which meets their needs and appeals to their sort of sensibilities or taste, and pay more money for that than if you just kind of take this approach where you're like, right, I need to make $100,000 and who's going to pay it for me? I think that's really tricky. By looking at your people and what they need, their kind of interests and the problems that they're facing, and then design something to suit them, you're more likely to get high-end clients. I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you need any more information. Okay, and then we've got one more message, which I don't think is a question, although I did think it was at first, but I thought I'm going to put it in anyway. It's from Maggie.
Hi Nadia, my name's Maggie and I run my own business, and I just wanted to let you know that I think you're fab and I love your voice, and you do really help me with all your wise words, and so I just wanted to say keep doing what you're doing because you're doing it really, really well. And I love it. So anyway, that's my message to you today. And thank you for all your messages that you give to me and to everybody else. They're really brilliant.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team.
Thanks, Maggie. That was so nice. I just wanted to say thank you, and I wanted to include your message in my podcast as a way of saying thanks. So, feel free to send me nice messages too. You don't just have to ask me questions. Thank you very much, Maggie. That was really kind. I really enjoyed this episode. If you have a question, send it via SpeakPipe. You just record it like a voicemail on your computer, or send me a nice message. That's absolutely fine by me. And with your questions, just make them as specific as possible, if that's okay. And then I'll do my best to answer them for you.
Come hang out with Nadia on Facebook. Join the Little Voice Big Business Facebook group and get support, inspiration and encouragement to help you make it happen. Go to nadiafiner.com/group to join in.
Thanks very much for listening to my Q&A session, and hopefully we'll do another one of these again soon. And let me know if you've got any questions. Okay, and if you're a bit shy and you don't want to record your voice, either persuade a friend to do it for you or just ask it to me in the Facebook group Little Voice Big Business. Okay then, have a great day and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Little Voice Big Business.